Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you clicked on this video, I assume that you're either already a manager in tech, maybe you work in tech and genuinely curious, or maybe you're looking for management tips. Either way, welcome. I'm Elena and I work as a manager in tech. First, let's figure out what is tech. Right now, term tech covers companies that work in a wide area of technology. Some time ago, we used to call everything IT, but the term tech is much wider than just IT. People who work in tech are software engineers, data scientists, solution architects, QA, DevOps, MLOps engineers, project managers, and much more. A little bit about myself. I work in tech for 12 years and I'm managing tech teams for last 6 years. I mostly work with tech teams from a project manager role, which means I'm not their tech lead and I'm not the hard skill expert in the tools that they use. And this is absolutely fine. Development and management of the development are two different tasks that demands from people different skill set. Though project managers sometimes can come from developers, this is not the core of the job. Throughout my career, I formulated several rules for myself that helped me make work of my teams more happy and more productive. These tips is also what I carefully collected while observing other experienced managers and how they treat their development teams. So here are my 10 tips on how to manage people in tech. The first tip: always explain what you want. This is a basic of any goal setting. It's a goal setting 101. If you don't properly set what you expect to have as a result, you will never have a predictable outcome. No, you actually will have a pretty predictable outcome. You know when people say if you use a low quality data in the analysis, then the result would be predictably a low quality as well? You get what I mean. The thing is, if you're a manager or you're a project manager, you always work in a lot of different informational fields around you. You have a wide context, sometimes from different angles. And it creates a certain bias. We tend to think that everyone around us also possesses the same information. And because of that, sometimes we neglect properly explaining what do we want. Because we assume that people already understand that. And we forget that something that may be self-explanatory to us is not that obvious for others. To be honest, in my practice, sometimes I even do it a little bit excessively. Even when I assume that team understands me correctly, sometimes I can additionally ensure that they know what's supposed to be done. My belief is it may be a little bit irritating sometimes, but it's better to double check and make it absolutely clear for everyone than save 2 minutes from a daily or planning session and end up with the simply wrong result. So the first one is a foundation. Always explain what you want. It's not that hard. Second tip: always explain why. I mean, explain not only what you want, but why you want it. Of course, understanding why you're doing something increases your motivation, right? If you're just doing a small part and you don't know how this part is connected to bigger picture or a bigger purpose, you won't feel that excited about the task. But even if we set this part aside, sometimes the context of why helps teams to do a decision making. Of course, for example, development team, they have a product that they need to produce, a task that they need to execute, but even within a well-defined task, there are a lot of potential decisions that, for example, a developer may take, depending on what she thinks is right for this particular task based on her expertise. And these decisions may either support a bigger why or harm it. For example, if you're developing something, you can decide to do the fastest solution possible, but if you already know that this part that you're creating will be a foundation for something bigger and with the high cost of the mistake, you may choose take more time, but build a more resilient and stable solution according to the best practices. So don't look at explaining why only as a motivational part, because it's not. Creating a common informational field for the team to understand not only what to do, but why to do it would for sure benefit any product development. And on top of that, yes, of course, it's nice to have a common why. I do feel more personally motivated when I understand why am I doing this thing. Third tip: trust other people's expertise. To be honest, if you don't trust other people's expertise, first of all, they can feel that. And second of all, in my opinion, there is almost nothing as discouraging as this. Nothing kills the mood of the team as much as micromanagement. If you ensured that the team knows what to do, they understand why are they building it, and they have all they need to actually do this, leave them alone. let people work. My observation from my experience is that usually managers, especially managers who are not hard skill experts in the technology, sometimes tend to not trust other people's expertise. Because, a lot of us, we want to understand everything. We want to be on top of everything. This is a part of our personalities that makes us do our job as managers well. But if I will try to understand 100% of the depth of everything, first of all, I would be a really annoying person. And second of all, because I don't understand something, it may really sound like I'm doubting other people's decisions just because I don't understand the logic behind them. This is annoying, this is pressuring, don't do that. And I understand that sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you just have to ensure that you ticked all the boxes, you set the goal, you explained everything, you ensure that the team is having what is needed to actually do that. And from that on, you have to let it go. You have to give people a chance to do their job, to do their magic. And if you don't control every tiny decision that is made, sometimes it's alright. These people occupy their roles for a reason. They're experts, they know what they're doing. Of course, if you have a junior person in the team, it demands a different approach, but I would say in this situation, a person would rather require an attention from a tech lead, not from the delivery lead or a project manager. So yeah, I'm basically trying to say, leave them alone. Trust me, they will appreciate it. Fourth tip. Help your team not to get distracted. Imagine that you're playing a game or watching a movie. It's really interesting, you're fully immersed in the process. And now someone is messaging you or calling you or start asking you questions. First of all, it's annoying. Second of all, it distracts, so you lose your focus. When the team loses the focus, it may lower the quality of the result that the team will produce. The more the team is distracted by ad hoc tasks, unplanned status update questions, emails, unnecessary communications, excessive reporting about their job, the more likely they won't be as productive as they can potentially be. Here, I also want to mention that tech is quite a wide term, and there are certain roles in tech that are, I would say, more resilient and adapt to changes easily, just because of the nature of the job, because of the profile of people who occupies these roles. But often, the nature of the job actually demands a tech person to stay focused on one task for a long time. And once again, interruptions won't only annoy, but will affect the results. And this is our job as managers to create the environment where our teams won't get distracted. Tip number 5. Help tech people connect with each other. Here's my and not only my observation. There are amazing people who work in tech. They are brilliant. They are insanely smart. They're doing a phenomenal job. They're really well educated and experienced, and they know about their fields a lot. Maybe because of that, sometimes they can be opinionated. And it's our part as managers to create a necessary forum where people with different expertise, with different view and take on the same problem would be able to talk and will be able to talk productively. Also, once again, sometimes we as manager possess a more high-level picture, a more wider understanding of what's going on. And we can see connection that the person who works on a particular product or feature may not see. So what we can do is to help them connect to each other, organize it, ensure that these communications are productive, facilitate these meetings sometimes, yes. This is, I think, the support that every tech team would benefit from. Tip number 6, give your team a space to speak. Here's the thing, people are different. Surprise. We have different profiles, different personalities, different level of extroversy, different size of a comfort zone, different ability to speak up when I have something to say. And it's amazing. Teams often benefit from having people with these different profiles of personalities. It's great. At the same time, if you don't manage this team properly, it can create situation of some people being a little bit disadvantaged. For example, let's imagine the team is having a meeting or ceremony and they discuss the problem. They brainstorm about how to tackle it and what could help. They all have really good ideas and they all actively share it. Apart one person who has an expertise but just not that naturally vocal. What may happen is you will collect a lot of ideas from people who tend to be more vocal and you would never hear what this person thinks. I found for myself personally that it's really helpful to to always monitor who is speaking and how often. If I notice that there is a person who is often quiet, I may, before the team is making a final decision, pause it for a second and invite the person to share what he or she thinks about the matter. Because there is a chance that if I won't create a space for this person to speak up, we may never find out a potential brilliant solution to a problem that we experience. There is a cliche opinion that people in tech tend to be on more reserved, quiet, shy, introverted side. To be honest, I don't think it's true, and I think that people with that profile may be in any team. It doesn't matter if it's a tech team or not. So our job is to give these people a chance to speak. And it's not only to ensure the fair play in the team. It's because if you don't do this, you may lose the potential value that they may bring to a company. Tip number 7, set the rules and rules about how you change the rules. There are a lot of ways how team can work together. Endless practices, approaches, styles. So for example, if you manage a really mature team that follows a certain framework, for example, agile framework, so they already know a certain set of practices, they already experienced that, they already know how it should be done, they have it in their past experience, then yes, I would say there is a high chance that they will self-organize based on what positive experience with some practices they used to have. But if that's not the case, I wouldn't count on the team to come up with rules of the game for the team. As a manager, you understand the goal, you understand what should be done, you understand the team, what are their strengths and sites for development. Based on that, you can come up with a lot of rules that would help team to show their best work. But there is a trick there. Please never make it top-down. I mean, yeah, I can imagine some cases when it can be top-down, but if we're talking about the rules within the team, the rules of their work, if you first won't discuss it with them, if you second won't explain why this rule is beneficial either for you or for the team, they just won't execute it. Or it will turn you into a micromanager that would need to reinforce every single thing. My opinion is I don't really believe that tech teams work best with that environment. So even if you follow an existing framework like Scrum or Kanban, on one hand, you can set these rules. On the other hand, keep a certain room for the agility. Always discuss these things with the team. Always explain why they need to adapt a certain rule or practice. And now this is a pro tip. Certain practices may work for the team at a certain stage or period of time, and at some point it can stop being useful, and this is fine. So it's absolutely okay if we at some point see that the practice doesn't work and we would decide to stop doing that. But it's really important to discuss this with the team up front, because without it, it may look like we're just unstable, unexperienced team, we don't know what they're doing, we're like blind kittens, we're trying this and that. But if you beforehand explain it to the team, you tell them, here's our rules and here's what is the process of us changing them. If you, I would say, normalize changing the rules, the team will accept every change much easily. And it won't feel like a failure that something stopped working. It would feel like an evolution, like a development. So set the rules and how these rules may change in the future. Tip number 8. Don't hesitate to give a feedback. There are multiple ways of giving feedback. There are endless books and videos about how to do it properly. Here's my take on it from my experience of working as a manager in tech teams. First of all, even if it's hard, you should not keep the feedback to yourself. It's healthy and it's right to give a feedback if you observe that something is not going well. I would say especially in tech teams, a productive environment is often achieved by people being open about what they think of each other's work. If everyone is sugarcoating everything or everyone is saying, yay, good job, when they're obviously unhappy with the results, this is not a healthy team dynamic. And given an honest and open feedback starts with us, with managers. It doesn't mean that you have to be harsh or super straightforward. And to be honest, I personally do prefer giving a feedback in one-to-one conversations. And I remember I used to try to heavily kind of sugarcoat the feedback because I felt so awkward of telling the person that something can be improved. I was really scared that the person would get mad at me, that I would offend the person. And it took a lot of practice for me to learn how to give a feedback in an honest manner on one hand, but on the other hand, with the maximum care about the person. What does this mean? For example, I observe a certain behavior from a team member that damages the teamwork. It sometimes happens, it's alright. And yes, once I will have a conversation with this person about it, there is a chance that the person will get upset. I mean, come on, it doesn't matter how much we receive a feedback. It's still sometimes painful. It's still sometimes uncomfortable. We all know that. But here's a trick. I know that if I will share this feedback, of course constructively, of course without blaming, there is a chance that the person will actually improve. It will be not only beneficial for the team that may experience problems because of a certain behavior, it's a learning and growing point for this person. So despite it being uncomfortable in the moment, in the long run, it's essentially a good thing. So the trick is I put a benefit that my feedback will bring to a person above my fear of not being liked by the person when I give this feedback. I believe there is a concept that calls it's a feedback giving approach that is basically about the same thing. You need to value the learning that you can give to a person above a discomfort of not being liked at the moment. And I also believe that here we work as a role models to the team because we show an example that this is all right. We normalize giving feedback. The team that consists of people who are willing to accept a feedback and be okay with that is amazing. Super healthy way of working, in my opinion. Tip number 9. As a manager, you need to balance your own emotions. Let me explain you what I mean. There are times when you need to create a sense of urgency in the team. Many project managers are actually driven by an internal deadline anxiety. So when it comes to approaching deadlines or a critical problems that needs to be resolved, our brain is like a naked nerve. We forget about procrastination. We forget about everything. We're getting super active. And especially in the situations like that, we managers, project managers, we feel a need to communicate it somehow to the team. For them to know that, for example, we experience a really urgent problem. But what we also do sometimes is we communicate it with a lot of underlying emotions because we care about the results. We're doing something right now because of this internal feel of urgency. And to a certain extent, we want for everyone who may affect the result to feel the same. But most likely, stressing the team too much will backlash for many reasons. And I think the biggest one is your team may not have the same stress tolerance as you, which means that this, in your opinion, healthy stress level won't motivate them, won't push them to do more and better, but will affect the quality of their work because they will be stressed, they will be paralyzed, they won't show their best work. And for us, especially when we're pressured by a deadline, it's really hard to, it's tough to put ourselves in other people's shoes. We're thinking that we're doing good, which in fact is simply not true. So what we as managers need to do there is being more calm and being more patient. Of course, if you experience an urgent problem that the team should take care of, you need to communicate it. But you can explain the urgency without an emotional component. You can explain, okay, this is the consequences of what's happening. This is why it's critical. This what would happen if we won't resolve it until the deadline, for example. You can say it calmly. People will still understand that it's urgent. From my experience, people even appreciate it more when you, to a certain extent, shield them from, business stakeholders that are freaking out and screaming because something is not working. This is how us balancing our emotions will help the team to do a better job. And the final tip, the tip number 10, is don't forget to have fun. Trust me, a good manager, a professional manager doesn't have to be always serious. You are a role model to people around you. And if you will be taking yourself too seriously, there are two scenarios. Either people around you will pick it up. Of course, once I started to talking about having fun, my dear friend came to assist me. What I was talking about? Oh yeah, two ways. Either people will start picking it up and you will end up with people who are hiding their personalities at work, try to play it serious all the time, or, which is I think most likely, they will have their fun. They will just exclude you. I don't even know what's worse. Maybe the second one is worse. So please trust me, if you show a human aspect of yourself at work, it doesn't make you less professional. It doesn't make you bad manager. It's the opposite. If you can afford being a little bit more relaxed sometimes, having more fun, enjoy wins and achievements with the team, you will be a better manager and you will be a better member of this team. So yeah, have fun. I promise even you will enjoy your hours at work more. That's it for today. I really hope that you found my tips tips useful. I carefully collected it throughout my career as a manager, and I also try to include great tips that I have heard from more experienced managers. Let me know if you can relate to it, and see you in my next video next Friday. Bye!